How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome back to another video. Now today I want to talk about the Motorola Razr, why it wasn't much of a success and what we can expect for the second gen version of the device. But before we get into that, let's actually talk about the Razr itself. This thing was supposedly out in the public eye sometime in March of 2019. By the summer of 2019, we started to hear more about its design and everyone was hyped because this thing was basically combining the nostalgic factor of the Motorola Razr with a foldable smartphone concept, and people loved it. And by the time it was November/December, we sort of got official confirmation of the device. We started to see more hands-on appearances of the device, and sometime in January/February, I got to check it out over on GN Tech. So if you've missed this video, you can go ahead and check it out using the card above. But basically, this was the foldable concept of the smartphone. It was a 21:9 aspect ratio, a 6.2-inch plastic OLED display, and it had a different take on the foldable smartphones because the ones we saw prior to these were all sort of these landscape foldable smartphones, and this being a portrait one was kind of unique. I would say the design was up there. I'd say the build quality was kind of iffy, the display was kind of iffy, the specifications were okay, and you get what I'm pointing at. This thing wasn't the complete product. It was definitely a step to the complete product, but it wasn't the complete product, and because of that, when the Galaxy Z Flip from Samsung came out just about 2 weeks later, it completely blew the Razr apart. It had everything that the Razr had, but it could do it better. It had a better display, a better build quality, a better processor, etc, etc, and you get why the Razr wasn't successful. Not only that, Samsung had a track record with the Fold, Motorola didn't. So when you put the Razr and the Z Flip side by side, people were obviously going to choose the Z Flip because they were confident in what Samsung was doing with the ultra thin glass, etc, etc. And best of all, the Razr was actually more expensive than the Z Flip. And I guess due to all of those reasons combined, the Razr wasn't really successful, at least in the UAE region, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't that successful elsewhere in the world either. But we're starting to hear a second gen version of the Razr is in the works. So a podcast called Reframe Tech basically focuses on the intersection of technology and humanity from a South African perspective. And basically a Lenovo PR representative from South Africa confirmed that the Razr 2 is in progress and it's coming out sometime in September of this year. So they mentioned this around the 18-minute mark of this podcast, as well as around the 42-minute mark of this podcast. So if you want to go listen to it, I'll leave a link to this one down in the description as well for you to check out. But what can we expect from the second gen version of this device? So I'm getting a lot of inspiration here from XDA developers who have this article up on the Razr 2. You can go ahead and check that out. But basically, I want a better build quality. This thing was sort of creaky. It wasn't really up there with, the refined products we're starting to see. And I want a better display. So the 6.2-inch display, the plastic OLED display, while good, wasn't the best out there because you could really tell that the sunlight legibility on this thing was iffy. Not only that, if you actually look at the hinge of the Motorola Razr 1, it wasn't really sturdy. I mean, you could easily see dust or any small particles getting into the display, and that could ruin your overall experience, which was something that I didn't really expect from a foldable smartphone, especially when you're paying such a premium price tag. So maybe Motorola could implement the ultra thin glass that we saw on the Z Flip, make the screen more durable, and make it so that it has less sort of protrusions inside, and maybe less susceptible to damage through small particles, dust, etc, etc. As far as specifications go, we're looking at the Qualcomm Snapdragon 765 5G processor, and that makes sense because the Razr 1 in itself was very expensive and they don't want to go for a flagship level processor and make the Razr 2 more expensive than the first one. So they want to make sure that the processor is up there but not so much that it completely blows away in terms of price. So 765 5G, you're gonna get 5G support, which is great, but you're also gonna get a decent enough experience for a phone like this. 21:9 aspect ratio. As far as the actual screen dimensions go, both the outside screen and the inside screen were pretty much perfect. Just the fact that their durability wasn't quite up there was one of the key reasons why people weren't really buying the phone. Apart from that, I mentioned ultra thin glass, I mentioned 765. As far as RAM and storage goes, maybe they could look to double that. So instead of 6 gigabytes of RAM, you could have 8 gigabytes of RAM, and instead of 128 gigabytes of storage, you could have 256 gigabytes of storage. But as far as pretty much all the rest of the specifications go, the software goes, it was really up there. I really liked the phone from a, innovation perspective, and I can definitely see Motorola start to pick this thing up. It even had a nostalgic Razr dialer. I've showcased it at the back of the video, sometime in the back, I'm not really sure where. You can go ahead and check this video out if you want, but yes, that's sort of my impression of the Motorola Razr. It wasn't the finished product, but it definitely had the potential to be, and I think the Razr 2 in September is going to do that. As far as official pricing goes, I'm going to expect this phone to sell at around the 4,999 dirham price tag. Yes, I know that's a very ambitious call, but with the likes of the Galaxy Fold 2 coming out, if they could make that price come down to around the 6,499 dirham price tag, then this thing really has to push it when it comes to price. Plus, we don't know if it's coming to the UAE market, because I think the Razr 2 is focused on a specific few markets in the United States as well as in Europe, so we're gonna have to wait and see what Motorola does with the Razr 2. But with the Edge Plus coming to the UAE, it's a good start, and we can definitely expect the Razr 2 to come to the UAE, if not in September, maybe by the time it's around the November/December mark of this year. But yeah, that basically sums up what I think of the Razr. If Motorola could improve the build, if they could improve the camera, which seems to be a 48 megapixel camera on the back of the phone as we're hearing, and a 20 megapixel camera on the front, if they can improve the actual durability of the device without raising the price, if they can improve the specifications, and make this device come up there with the likes of the Galaxy Z Flip in terms of price, we're looking at the finished product, and that's what the Razr 1 should have been. But at least the Razr 2 is coming to fix that sometime in September, and fingers crossed this sort of sparks off that revolution of competitiveness when it comes to foldable smartphones like this, because so far we've only seen the Z Flip. It took off, and I'm guessing that the Z Flip needs some competition by the time it's September. So thank you guys for watching. These were my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Subscribe for more videos. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.